you're perfectly all
I'm
right.
in shock.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're.
good.
Yeah, no. So thank you, everyone. If you are watching this, thank you very much. And this is the fourth episode now of Musician's Corner, and I am delighted to be joined by Claire Wicks, who is flautist, composer, a sample library recorder now. Is there anything you can't do, Claire? That's a question,
I
really.
mean, I'm just yet to find it.
Yeah.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to be on and to chat to you. Yeah, no, I mean, many titles now, but none of which I particularly planned, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
Especially the sample library. I never thought I that was something I was going to do. Like recording my own sample library. That came as a shock to me as well, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, I think it's one that it must feel so special when, I guess, whenever anyone writes anything now, it's almost got like a piece of you in that
Yeah,
piece
it's
now. And
really really weird,
yeah,
and like especially, I mean, I'm loving it because I really really wanted to make one as soon as Orchestral Tools came to me. So we've given no context here; we've gone straight into it. Orchestral
oh,
Tools
no.
asked if I wanted to make a sample library, as I work with them as a composer and a creator, and I and of course I said yes, but I really really wanted to make it free
Yeah,
because it was so important to me that actually people had access to it, and it's just been amazing since that's been out. Actually hearing people like on their keyboards, and it's me, and like the sounds
yeah,
I've made are coming out. It's
yeah,
really mind blowing. I'm
yeah,
like, I didn't expect to be as affected by it as I am, if you know what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah,
It's been
definitely.
like quite emotional.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, that's fine. I would be as
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
and
yet to be approached about trumpet samples yet, but I don't know.
I'm sure it's all in the
Yeah,
pipeline,
yeah.
though. But
Um,
honestly, I mean, I'm admire anyone who makes their own sample library like on their own, because I mean, I recorded the samples. I had it was my concept, but I had a whole team of people who helped me with that, and
yeah,
threw out the ideas that were never going to work and went, no, these are the ones that will work,
yeah,
and helped me focus in on it and
yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah,
Um,
sometimes in those bits you just got to be really honest to say, yeah, this works, this bit doesn't work, and yeah, because
yeah,
you're
exactly.
how long were you actually in recording for?
Well, it should have been 2 or 3 days.
Mhm.
It was in fact one day, but like the
No.
longest day of my life
Yeah, yeah,
because yeah, so they're based in Berlin
yeah.
and I'm based in London,
Yeah.
and basically had it. It was in December, and of course there was snow in the UK
Oh
on the day of
gosh,
my flight. The UK
sod
cannot
law.
deal with snow. It was like this much.
Yeah,
Honestly, you looked out the
it's so as
window.
soon as a flake falls, everyone's at the window
Yeah,
like.
exactly. You couldn't see a thing. Like it wasn't even settling. Of course, everything was grounded for like 2 days. I
Mm,
just couldn't get there.
yeah,
Yeah, so I was supposed to be there on Monday and recording, and I didn't get there till Wednesday. So
yeah,
we just had to smash it out in one day.
yeah. Because
Um,
I mirrors that the video that Orchestral Tools have put up about just the process of recording it, and you're just on the floor at the end, just like stretching your back because you had to do all the
just a ruined
recording inside the
woman.
piano,
Yeah.
didn't you? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, just to say, in case anyone hasn't come across it yet, it's an Orchestral Tools library. It's part of their Sign
I
Factory
will link
range.
it in as well.
Oh, wicked! That'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's called Lucent, and it's a flute library. Like as Sam said, I'm also a flautist as well as composer, and so it's all me doing like weird and wonderful things on the flute.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so do check it out if you've not got it, because I just
yeah,
want as many people as possible like to have it. It's free,
yeah.
so
And I
you
think
know.
that's the thing with a lot of flute samples. You often just get the sound, like just
Yeah,
the standard sound, and you've gone above and beyond, and you've done all these extended techniques that you wouldn't necessarily get with like a unless you paid something for it. Like
yeah.
yeah, so
I hope so. I think it definitely gives like a lot of value, especially considering you're paying nothing. But what I really wanted to show was what I used in my compositions,
yeah,
which was actually not really standard flute
yeah,
sound. I mean, it's great to have a beautifully detailed sampled flute, but
mm,
ultimately that's not possible in a free library because
yeah,
that's going to take days, weeks
yeah,
of sampling, to get legatos and everything.
yeah,
Not to mention, like Orchestral Tools already have
yeah,
beautifully sampled solo flute.
yeah,
And so I was just like, I don't really want to do that. Plus, unless you're doing kind of very classic, maybe John Williamsy style orchestration, you're not always looking for that kind of a flute.
Hmm.
And what I really used a lot when I first started would be, say, if I had some sampled strings, but because I had no money and I was just using maybe like the worst of the worst Logic stock
Yeah.
instrument or something really poor,
Yeah.
um, then if I added like a little bit of kind of flute airy noise on top of it, it suddenly
It
gave it
just
like
transforms it,
life.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that's
precisely.
it's such a useful thing to say that how much just one live instrument can just transform your piece. Yeah.
Exactly, but it doesn't always have to be played in a conventional way.
No.
And in a way, I think it's sometimes better if it's not played in a conventional way, especially if you are using MIDI samples. Unless
Yeah.
you've got really, really high quality stuff, it's so much more noticeable
Hmm.
if if you're trying to make something sound traditional. Whereas if you're just going, you know what, we're going to use a
Yeah.
whole different range of flute colors, like in my case,
Yeah.
that aren't even what you usually hear at all. And, these kind of air noises or key slaps and crescendos or timbral tremolos, which is like a
Yeah.
microtonal trill kind of thing.
Yeah.
All of that, then actually on a track, it just sounds like a live instrument because they're not sounds that we've heard a million times.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Definitely. I was going to say you're definitely introducing people to new sounds as well, and as a listener, it keeps it interesting as well. You know, you could get bored. Not you could potentially get bored of like not just with flute, but with any instrument if it was the
believe
same
me, if
sound. If
anyone's
it,
bored of the flute, it's me. So you don't have to worry
yeah,
about
but
that.
like I know I'm a trumpet player, so with trumpet, I guess you can do things like growling and lip trills and stuff like that to keep
When
it.
you do a growl on the trumpet, are you literally growling
Like
like
if you
like a
just
dog?
go down the
Oh,
trumpet bit,
almost
yeah,
like a
yeah,
flutter tone.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
like a
yeah. There's
gargle.
flutter tone as well, but there's like
Different.
yeah. Flutter tones were like down your trumpet, like, and that's gonna sound good enough.
Yeah,
There's I
it's
can't
the
even.
ASMR element of the
Yeah.
show.
Hello. And then there's yeah, like ground, which is more like down trumpet. I mean, I don't have my trumpet up here. I would kind of do a demonstration. I'd probably absolutely blow the levels of my
Yeah,
mic.
it
No,
would be that would be loud.
and deafen you. um, no, but I think keeping different techniques and music just helps it to keep it interesting. And I think hopefully you're encouraging other flautists to have the confidence, to explore a bit more outside
Yeah,
their comfort
potentially.
zone.
I actually hadn't thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah,
I don't know how many flautists are using sample libraries, but then again, I got here
yeah,
somehow. So
yeah,
yeah, that is possible as well.
yeah,
Though I would say exercise caution when doing the inside piano
yeah, yeah,
playing, which just to like explain briefly is a whole load of samples that we did with me like leaning over inside a grand piano,
yeah.
and then someone had to actually it was Sasha who is an amazing composer and multi-talented person over at OT. He had the very important of the job of holding down the sustain pedal,
Oh my
which I
God.
I think it's fair to say he was like slightly overqualified for.
They
And
have to put like a brick on it to like weigh it
I know
down.
you'd have thought, but then actually taking it off and clearing it and then putting it down again, that was an impossible
Ah,
feat.
yeah,
The brick
yeah,
can't do it all.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, but as much as I'd love to keep talking about orchestral tools, I know I've got a few other things to talk about as well, but I will
fire away,
um
yeah.
link the Sign Factory and Lucent in the description, and we'll link orchestral tools in, so because people need to check out the free resources that they do have available, as well as other amazing sample libraries, and just to check out lots of Claire's walkthroughs as well, because they are
Oh yeah, you
no
you can't move around that website without seeing
no
her
no
face, unfortunately. So
no no, but just staying on the topic of flute playing as well, I know that you play with the English National Opera as well,
yeah, that's right.
and I was just wondering how you first got involved with that, and I just the kind of mission that's behind the National Opera, if that makes sense. I really
Yeah.
love the fact that it's trying to make opera more inclusive to people that might not have discovered it or just think, oh, it's opera, and like, it's the for
Yeah,
people
I know
like the
exactly what you mean
stereotype,
actually.
basically. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, precisely. There is
yeah,
such a stereotype about it.
yeah,
Okay, well, to your first question, I mean, how did I come to be in English National Opera? It's sort of a funny question to me because I'm like, now I'm in this career as a composer,
Yeah,
and I'm like a composer who also happens to play the flute. But
yeah,
really, my first career was entirely as a flautist. Like, I sort of decided that that was what I wanted to do when I was about 11 years old, and was then quite blinkered about that. Which is probably a massive understatement. I was extremely blinkered about that. I really, really wanted, like, my whole goal was I want to get a principal flute job in a London orchestra,
yeah.
which was very unrealistic, really. Now I look back on it, but somehow that did happen. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was sort of massively fortunate for me. So, as for how I got into that, I suppose when I was so I studied flute, not composition.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not entirely true. I studied academic music
Hmm.
at university, and then I went on to study the flute for a postgraduate.
Was that
But
in
I always
London as well
knew
then? Was that down in, did you study music in London as well?
my academic degree I did at Oxford,
Oh, nice.
and then I went to the Royal College of Music for my postgraduate, which was
Oh,
just in performance. That was in the flute.
nice.
Um, so yeah, and when I finished studying, I was lucky enough to already be on trial a few places. So
Mm.
how it usually works with orchestral career paths is that you start auditioning. I mean, whenever's right for you, but a lot
Yeah,
of people do start auditioning when they're doing their postgraduate
yeah,
degrees. Um, and it's basically it's kind of the machine gun approach. You
yeah,
try them all, and
yeah,
you just see what sticks.
yeah. See what
Um,
happens. Yeah.
yeah, and honestly, I mean, orchestral jobs are hard to come by in that you're basically waiting until someone either retires or dies for a seat to come up.
Mhm.
So, say in a flute section, there's either 2 or 3 seats available.
Yeah.
I mean, say in the
Would you have
section
a
I'm at,
separate seat for piccolo? Or is it normally someone who doubles on both?
it
Right.
can be
Yeah,
either.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
depends on the orchestra. In
yeah,
my orchestra, it's someone who doubles, but they are the principal piccolo.
yeah,
That would be the third seat.
yeah.
And like that's a good example actually, because when I joined, the piccolo player, his tenure was coming up for 40 years at that point.
Wow.
So like that's how long it's been since that chair has come up.
Amazing.
So when I say I was really lucky with this job, what I really mean is like I obviously worked incredibly hard
Yeah.
for it, but the timing worked out incredibly well for me. And yeah, that is nothing more than luck.
But
So
that's what you need sometimes. That's it's just being in the right place at the right time.
yeah,
It's just it just happens. I've
absolutely.
I've said this. I think I said this on no, I think I said it on one of the first podcasts I did. But yeah, it's about being in the right place at the right time, and I think it's really easy to look on here and social media and look at someone else who's my age and go, oh, they've got or they've made it already, and they're doing lots of
Yeah,
composing. But it's just about they might have been in the right place at the right time, or it's not that
absolutely.
you haven't
Yeah.
done enough. It's just that they managed to luckily find that that little inroad,
Yeah,
that little path.
totally.
Yeah,
And not to mention, like, on social media, we all present like the shiniest version of ourselves. It's
yeah,
so unrealistic.
yeah,
It's so easy to look at someone else, and of course, they're just promoting the thing that they've just done,
yeah,
and go, "Oh my God, they've made it. They're doing so well." It's like you
yeah.
honestly have no idea what someone else
Yeah,
is doing. Whether that was like their big break, or whether even
yeah,
they're being completely
yeah,
honest about how their
yeah,
career is going. I think generally it's best to take everything with a pinch of salt
yeah,
on
definitely.
social media,
I think
or at least that's my policy.
I know when I did one of those four composers things for the QTube, and I did like a little a reel just saying, oh no, this is what's happening to that, and it must have taken me about 20 times because I was just like came in and mess up and went, oh, start again, start again. And that's what people don't see. They think it's a
Yeah,
real first take. That's it. Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and what you forget as well, like we're always looking upwards. We look
yeah,
at the people who we perceive to be doing better than us,
yeah,
regardless of what that means. But you forget that there's a load of people looking at yourself,
yeah,
and going,
yeah,
oh my God, they're doing so well. Or even like you 5 years ago would look at you now and be like, oh my
yeah,
God, I can't believe I've done all that cool stuff.
yeah.
You know.
I think
Anyway, I mean,
everyone.
that's a whole different
Oh no,
conversation.
that's it. It
Um,
was just that interesting how you said how it was just luck, but I don't
Yeah.
think it is
I mean, no,
also.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to do it down at all. Like, I worked
No,
incredibly
no,
hard.
definitely.
Literally, my whole teenage years were spent in a practice room. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't even tell you. Yeah. So I worked
Did you
very, very
take a
hard for it.
sleeping bag
But
with you as well in there, like, and just yeah,
you're
yeah,
kidding, but that sort of thing has happened,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I had a policy when I was at university, um, because I wasn't actually studying the flute there, but I knew I wanted to be a flautist.
mhm,
Um, that I was like, I can get all of my work done if I just practice for 2 hours, like no more, no less, but do it every single day.
yeah,
So I was kind of burning the candle at both ends quite a lot, and I would stay
yeah,
up really late socializing,
yeah,
and then I would wake up before my first lectures and always do 2 hours of
yeah.
flute practice before the first lecture, to the point that often I would get to the music faculty and it wouldn't even be unlocked. And like someone from the library would sort of like drift in, unlock my
Oh,
door,
she's
being
back
like,
again.
Claire, hi. They just gave me the code in the end. I was like, sorry. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, just to like circle back to what you're saying about opera, so with regard to that, I mean, like, in all honesty, the reason that I got involved with that company, like I said, is because there was a job opening. Like, I can't lie about that. If there'd been a job opening somewhere else, then I would have gone there, if I'd got the job. Um, but I'm so glad that it ended up being English National Opera,
yeah,
because I have like the rare thing of genuinely really, really standing behind what they do.
yeah,
Um, and like, I'm not getting paid to say this. This is genuinely my opinion. But like, so the whole point of English National Opera, like you said, is that it's supposed to be for everyone. And so it doesn't matter who you are, whether you have ever been to an opera before, anything like that, whether you see it as being for you or not, you can get a ticket for under £20. In fact, most of the time under £10.
it's amazing.
If you're under 21, you go completely free.
Oh,
Like,
it's
everyone goes
27
free.
last Wednesday. That's
Ah, I know. I've just missed it as well. Such a shame. Um,
No, I
but
was
like,
actually 20.
yeah, I know. I wonder if they check IDs. Um, but I
Yeah,
love
under
that, and
21. Yeah,
then like the house is full of young people, and they get to sit in the best seats in the house as well. It's not like put them in the shit seats at the back.
yeah, yeah,
It's like they can sit in the best seats.
yeah.
Sorry, just whacked my mic.
That's fine.
Um, and yeah, and the whole thing is about trying to make it accessible. So people can be quite like snobby about opera,
Yeah,
or it feels like that's a world, and people use like the word elite a lot.
yeah,
And so the whole thing is about like trying to break that down,
yeah.
trying to make it basically not
I think
that.
people just a lot younger generation just think it's not cool as well. It's
Yeah,
not. It's
exactly.
not hip.
I know,
Down.
but I think that whole thing is going to completely turn around, because it's like, as people do get like a bit more into culture, whether that's
Yeah,
going to an art gallery, going to
yeah,
a play or anything, I think there's very few people who actually go to something and give it a go with an open mind.
yeah,
And then, like, fair play, if you do it and you go, that's not for me, like, no one is forcing
yeah.
you. But I just find it ridiculous when people say like, oh, it's so elitist, but then they'll pay, I don't know, 80 quid to go to a football match, or
Oh,
like,
100%. Yeah,
how much you pay to go to see Beyonce or something.
yeah.
And it's like, you can
That
come
was the other
either
day.
for free or for like 10-15 quid.
Yeah,
Like, there's no dress code. The whole thing is in English. That's the other big thing. Like,
yeah. I was just
we
about
sing
to
in
say that you
English.
got there bit away, which is
Yeah, which again is like, I
helps
mean,
with the storytelling as well, doesn't it?
yeah, it's
Um,
there. That is literally what we are doing. Like, it's storytelling. It's with music and with singing, and it's. I think most people, when they see an opera, as well, will. I mean, I can't speak for other people's experience, but most people will feel something, and for some people it can be, they get that kind of like reaction, like in Pretty Woman, where she goes and then she like
yeah,
weeps the first time she hears an opera. Some people it will like go completely the other way and like bring up a lot of emotions, but it's a kind of a catharsis.
yeah,
Like, not to go too much into the history, but that was literally like the origin of opera, was like it was believed to be cathartic, like it was
yeah,
a good outlet of emotions, kind of a way of like helping society stay repressed in some ways, because it's like, oh, we can just let emotions play out on stage.
yeah.
But it can be a really good like emotional catharsis.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if they, they might go on to tell someone else, and then they'll go to it and feel the same feelings, that not the same feelings, but feel this uh emotion in a good way, hopefully, that they felt, the previous people felt, and then the word can be spread, and
Yeah,
it's
exactly. And
yeah.
anyway, I mean, if anyone doesn't feel like comfortable going to an opera house, which I can completely understand, like I never saw an opera. I guess I went on a school trip maybe when I was like 16, 17 was
Mhm.
probably the first time I ever got taken to an opera with like my A level music class. I didn't feel like it was for me.
Yeah,
I didn't grow up in that kind of world, even though I was like playing the flute and doing classical
yeah,
music. You know, I can totally understand that detachment. And so if you do feel that, then you can look out for like our performances we do in other spaces. Like we did one recently, which I really enjoyed, which is at the Printworks in London. That's like more of a club, like
yeah,
club night kind of space,
yeah.
and it was all interactive. Like there was dancers, there was someone like painting.
That's brilliant.
We
Yeah,
had the most amazing singer. He's this wicked artist. He came on like these amazing
yeah,
red stilettos and just
yeah,
delivered like Handel and Philip Glass, so like Baroque music and contemporary
yeah,
minimalist
yeah.
music. This like alternating program.
That's fantastic.
It was amazing.
Two very
Um,
different
yeah,
compounds.
like very, very
Yeah,
contrasting
yeah,
with like these crazy videos going on in the background. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. There's something for everyone.
yeah. I remember when because I live in Hull, so I went to Hull University and did
Oh yeah.
my music degree there. Um, but I remember as part of my, I guess I was going to say syllabus, but part of my course I had to go to a certain amount of uh, they were called lunchtime performances, but they basically brought in people from all different types of musical background. But I remember they used to bring in really contemporary ones, um, and I wish now that I'd sort of appreciated a bit more. I think I'm a lot more mature in myself now. I think back then I just kind of just didn't appreciate it because I just thought it was a bit of a joke. Um,
Yeah.
and then I wish now that I just appreciate it more and realize that it actually is art. And no, I really love the way that music and art, correlate as well. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, different people like enjoy having music delivered to them in different ways.
yeah,
The kind of like a concert setting where you have to sit still and be quiet is not for everyone, and that's fine.
no, exactly. I think that's
Like
why
I'm not
these
here to
are
tell anyone that they have to get into it.
no,
Like I say, there's like different things you can go to and still enjoy that music, but somewhere you can move around. Like, I mean,
yeah.
to go back to very briefly to ENO, we do like a relaxed performance
Yeah,
of
that is
every
that's amazing that as
show.
well.
Yeah, which is it is incredible. Those I think are like some of the most meaningful things I've done there because it's
They're looking to
everyone.
do more of them as well. I'd say
Yeah,
they're doing it like with like musicals as well and stuff like that
yeah,
as well. So
exactly.
yeah,
And yeah, it basically means like there's no obligation to sit like
no,
quietly and be like well behaved in
mm,
the auditorium. So it can be great for someone who just like feels more comfortable, it being a
yeah,
bit more
exactly.
genuinely like relaxed. Like the lights are up a little bit in the
Yeah,
audience, so but equally if you've got health conditions, there are
yeah,
people with disabilities that for whatever reason might not feel comfortable in a like traditional concert
yeah.
settings.
They should
If
be
people want to bring
included.
their
Yeah,
kids, their
exactly.
babies, that whatever,
Yeah,
it's like if your child starts screaming or needs to leave after 20 minutes, that is completely fine. But then it's amazing. Like we did one reasonably recently, and it was a serious 3 hour long opera. Um, and there was someone with their two kids in the very front row, so right behind the conductor, and I mean, we could see them behind the conductor, like imitating the conductor
that's
the whole
amazing.
through,
Yeah,
which was really funny anyway. But they sat there and were just like enraptured by the whole thing for
yeah,
3 hours. It's like they were like maybe 5 and 7 year old
yeah,
kids. It's like you would make the assumption that like, oh, they'll never make it through it. But it's like as soon as you take away the pressure, so
yeah,
yeah, maybe they can, and maybe if they need to leave, that's fine too. Like,
yeah. Cool. Just I had to move like all my notes out of the way so I could operate my computer because I just
yeah,
got sheets of paper on my desk, which and it's like a very small ledge because it's just I think it's just meant for a keyboard.
yeah,
But annoyingly, the keyboard is um just just too wide to fit underneath the and
oh,
yeah,
it's such a pain. I know. I've got mine on my desk. I've never gone in for a tray
yeah.
thing. I always feel worried that it's gonna like that the keyboard will
Hurts
be
my
too
back as
heavy.
well. It hurts
Yeah,
my
it's like
back. Yeah.
too low, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I just find that I'm constantly just like pushing it back in. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
it
know.
does something fun. But I look at people who have them out here, I'm like, how's your back? How's your back? It's a
Yeah, I
yeah,
really prioritize having like my like this keyboard
yeah,
and
yeah,
my trackpad in a
yeah.
really comfortable space because actually like even when I'm composing, I'm actually using them way more than I'm using the actual piano,
Because
which
I
is
got like my controller thing
ooh,
on.
what's that?
It is.
That's
It's the
nice.
monogram one. They're magnetized,
Oh,
so you can
cool.
I
Oh, I
can
really like that.
but I think when we
Especially the
moved,
faders. That's really,
yeah,
really nice.
so but you can actually customize and like track it to do each one. And I think I can't remember which one's the expression and uh like what's it,
Well, you can
vibrato.
program
Yeah,
it yourself though. Yeah,
they're all different, but you can
yeah.
set up different ones. So if I'm working with like on Photoshop or something like that, or
Oh God. Oh,
yeah,
I've never even thought
you can
about using
set.
like
Yeah,
faders
but
on
even
for video editing
if
or
you're
anything.
using like Chrome or something like that, you can get it
Yeah,
to do like page back and
yeah.
whatnot. But then you have Logic and whatnot, and it's great. And then you can
Oh, nice.
decide where you want to put it, and
That's really cool.
got a box which is very
Thing
portable,
is, I love having something to fiddle with, so I know if I had
and
that,
it's
I'd just be
colors.
constantly like pulling it apart and
It's
then
got colors, Claire.
sticking it
You
together.
can change the color on each bit.
Well, see,
That's
that completely sells me on anything.
yeah. Um, yeah, so we were, yeah, just trying to remember where we were talking about the inclusivity of the English National Opera and
Oh yeah,
just yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, not to do like too clumsy a segue, but I kind of stand for that as well in like the composition world because I feel like there is this image that like oh you have to have studied composition or you know have to have gone to a particular school or university or whatever or had a particular type of training to do
yeah,
film composition and I think it's total rubbish. I think so many people these days and I'm so like inspired by you know especially on Instagram I think there's a really nice community of composers. I'm so
yeah,
inspired by that. There's so many people who will just actually decide they want to do it and teach themselves
yeah.
and it's like
And everyone
you know
does it slightly differently as well. There's no set way of, this is the right way to teach yourself. And people learn different skills, and then people, people do different demonstrations that show these different skills. And at the end of the day, you've never learned everything, so you're
no
always
absolutely
learning something new every day
yeah
on Instagram.
completely and
Yeah,
you know I mean whether you've done a degree in composition or not then you're still going to learn new stuff all the time you know the more that
100%.
you
Yeah,
write and compose and
even the
find your own
greatest
style
composers do. They,
yeah
yeah,
apart from Beethoven he finished he
yeah.
got to the end of it
He got to the
actually
end. Um, yeah, because I think it was interesting you talk about art and the English National Opera, just them. Yeah, I think you were talking about art and just
I dropped
into
out
how art was interpreted in the music. Yeah. You were talking about. I know you were talking about one of the performances. You said if it's not just at the National Opera, you do other
yeah
performances at different places. But it just got me thinking whilst they're up that call. That other artists, they talk about composing with lines and stuff like that. Kandinsky, who played
yeah
violin, um, and it just reminded me that he does quite a lot of work with lines with his art, which almost
yeah that like
like a bit like
expressionist
staves and
style yeah
yeah, um, yeah, and I guess in a way, it kind of reminds me of, yeah, there's a number two piece. I wrote down number two because number two is one of the most famous ones, which
oh
has,
yeah
oh, almost has like a stave on it as well, which looks,
oh I'll have to
yeah,
look
yeah.
that up
Um, so I'd definitely check that out. But
is that a painting by Kandinsky
yeah, yeah,
yeah
yeah. I don't think some of them have names, but a lot of them are just numbers. He just
it's
called them like
keep it
numbers.
simple.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you
100%.
think he was just spending like a day naming each one and then was
Yeah.
like, you know what? Screw this. They're just one,
I will
two,
call
three,
this
four,
one
five.
two. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. But I just wanted to talk about that because I know a big part of one of the things you did was going to the Arvo Pet um in Estonia, going to the
Oh yeah.
Lalismar,
Oh, it's
going to
so gorgeous
see
there.
the I guess his archive of his live
Yeah,
and
there's
the
there's this
yeah
amazing centre there.
yeah
I was so lucky to be able to go. Um, yeah, it's like in the middle of the forest there. Like you say, Lalismer. I never knew how to pronounce that, but I've
yeah.
taken
I
a
just
shot at
say
it
it
a
how
few
it
times.
sounds. That's for yeah. Uh, or if here's someone else say it and you just go, I'll go with that. Yeah. If you as long
Yeah,
as you're confident about pronouncing it wrong, that's the main.
yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, how was that experience for you as well? That it looked very magical on the
Yeah, I have to say it is like a fairy tale place.
yeah
I mean, it's very modern,
yeah
like architecturally, it's incredibly modern. But like, yeah, this setting in the woods, and it was snowing when I went. Yeah, so it's in Estonia, and it's like it's very near to where Arvo Pärt grew up as like a
mm,
big sort of tribute to him and his
yeah
music, and his archive is kept there, like you said. And I was actually there again with Orchestral Tools. As they were releasing their library Salu, which was like inspired by a lot of those sounds and had
yeah
been recorded there at the Arvo Pärt Centre. Um, and yeah, and we were doing like a sort of keynote release
yeah
thing there. Yeah, I have to say, the whole time I was there, I was so nervous because I was like doing their piano
yeah
demos for the keynote, which was like so out of my comfort zone. I feel
yeah
like composing, I thought it would just be writing music, and it turns out that it's writing music, doing video editing,
yeah
making content, doing keyboard demonstrations,
yeah.
talking about
Well, it's all
things
being
online,
recorded at the
doing
same
interviews.
time. Yeah
It's
yeah
it's like it's so much more than just writing music, and it's also learning a load of new tech and
yeah
usually getting stuck on it for a long time. Um, but yeah, so that was just one of the things that I felt as like something completely new for me.
yeah
I mean, I play the piano, but it's not my first instrument, so it
yeah
feels a little bit like speaking in your second language kind of
yeah.
thing.
So,
And yeah, I mean, I was just really lucky that the whole team is so nice, and so they made me feel super
yeah
comfortable. And we did the whole sort of demo all the way through, and I was just calming myself down by being like, "It's okay. This is just like a trial run. We'll do it once,
yeah
and then, we'll do a whole take of the whole thing again."
yeah.
And we got to the end, and they were like, "Yeah, we're happy if you're happy. Great." It's like,
What?
I don't
Sorry.
know. I thought I got to do the whole thing twice. Like,
Um,
yeah, but no, it came out really well. Or at least
that's one of the
hopefully
things,
it did.
though. If you don't know it's happening, then you perform at your best. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
when we used
it's so
to.
true.
Yeah, I remember when I did the performance module at uni. We used to have our um sometimes like recording sessions, and I used to just say, don't tell me the camera's rolling, or I used to just ignore, just yeah,
Yeah,
find a point on the wall and then just like stare at that almost
that
play for
is
trumpet.
true,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
I weirdly, though, have to kind of get myself into that mindset when I'm composing as well, though, because as soon as I start to let my brain go, people are going to listen to this.
yeah,
And it's like, I can't write a
yeah.
note.
And my brain does that, and it'll just sometimes just switch to something completely different. Yeah,
Yeah, I
um,
almost have to like try and trick myself. I mean, I
yeah,
must be very stupid to be able to successfully do it. So just be like, you know what? This is just the first draft. This is not what we're going to
yeah,
publish, or, no one's going to ever hear this.
yeah,
And often that is what people end up hearing.
yeah,
I mean, you write something, you tinker with it and make sure you're happy with it. But it's honestly, it's sort of like weirdly like mentally
yeah,
comforting to be like,
yeah,
this is just for you. You just, it's like creativity can run free when there's
yeah,
not pressure on it you know I think it's as soon
yeah,
as you're telling yourself it has to be
yeah,
perfect because it's the final version, it's
yeah.
it's crippling.
And then I guess when you did this, because was this time at the Arvo Pet, was that before you did the Lucent recording?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
was
then
just
you were
before
able
that.
to take that, I guess, experience and the fact that you knew you could do it,
Yeah,
and to take it and yeah, and take that almost approach into when you were recording the flute as
yeah.
well. Of
Though I mean, to be
yeah,
honest, recording something like a sample library
yeah,
is actually, I mean, so exciting as a project, but a sample library recording session is about the most boring thing a person can possibly do.
yeah,
Like it's musical photocopying. You're trying to
I
do
love
every
that.
note completely consistently at every different dynamic, with every different
Yeah,
articulation, with every different tone color that you want, with the same level of vibrato, with the same
yeah,
intonation, with the same sound. I mean, it's a massive technical challenge in the fact that it's so simple. It's like,
yeah,
oh, you thought you can play an A? You've been practicing playing an A for 20 years.
yeah.
Well, let's see you play the same A, exactly the same dynamic,
So
you know,
someone plays an
20
A on the flute
times.
now, and you're just like, oh no.
Yeah, triggered. Um,
Brings back
yeah,
memories.
it's such a funny thing because it's like, I mean, especially I think as composers, like a lot of us get very into VSTs and sample libraries,
Yeah,
and you can get really excited about a new release. But yeah, actually being in the studio is like, it is exceptionally boring. You have to have good company in the breaks to keep
yeah.
keep you going.
Lots of tea. Yeah,
Loads of tea, yeah,
yeah,
that's a rule that I tend to live
yeah,
by,
yeah.
regardless.
That's a good mug. Now. That's a good tea mug.
Oh yeah, this is one of the
Yeah,
preferred ones.
yeah. I think that's the thing. Sometimes I just make sure to have lots of water with me. I think it's when you get into the sort of composing in the zone, you just lose all track of time. And I suddenly realised that I've maybe drunk half a pint of water in the whole
Yeah,
day, and
yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah, when you're
especially when it
composing,
gets rainy again.
do you schedule in breaks for yourself, or do you just plow through?
No, I just so really I'll start because I have two jobs. I have this job and I have a job working as a quality in a quality assurance sector for Vodafone, which is a bit different, but I
It
can
is
use my
different.
skills for that I use in music, my communication skills and yeah, which is it's all been quite transferable really. But what was I saying? I don't schedule time, no.
Yeah,
I normally just
I know.
finish work and then next minute I'll look at the clock and no, that's not 8 o'clock. That is not it. It's not been 3 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It's so easy to do, isn't it? And I've been really trying recently, not least because I went to the opticians and they were like, you need to blink more and take like eye
To
rest
blink
every
more.
20 minutes. I know. I know. It was honestly, I mean, yeah, it was very funny. They were like, you're blinking like half the amount that you actually need to be. Because I think I get immersed in something and then I'm just like
Yeah.
composing. They're like,
Yeah. I sometimes
and
I do
yeah,
that. I
genuinely not
sometimes I
blinking.
just go keep um my mouth opens a little bit when I play piano and I've like watched videos of me playing piano like I look horrible like my concentration face.
Oh, it's awful seeing your own concentration
Yeah.
face. Like, no one should ever be put through that. It should just remain a mystery to you forever.
Yeah. I just imagine you just going to the opticians that you need to blink more.
That's
Oh, that'll
literally
be
what happened.
£40.
Yeah. I yeah, so now I'm trying to like schedule in a few more breaks, but it's really hard. Especially when you get into the flow, it's like you just don't want to stop. And I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but it takes me quite a while usually to actually get
Sam.
started.
Yeah.
Like probably the first hour of me working, I
If not a bit
get
more for
a
me
tiny bit done,
sometimes.
but not
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It
then maybe in like
varies.
the second or the third hour, then I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll suddenly get some momentum. But
Yeah.
yeah, getting going is like, yeah.
I
So
think
if
it's
I'm,
sometimes just staring at that blank canvas sometimes can be a bit daunting. Um, I've sort of built my own template that I use for,
oh
I
yeah,
guess, samples. And then what I normally don't use, I just delete out. Otherwise,
yeah,
Logic has a mental breakdown
yeah,
trying
of course,
to play
yeah.
200 samples at the same time. Um,
Well, it's good
but
just to have a starting point sometimes, isn't it? Because otherwise,
yeah,
you can just be like, well, the choice is just too much. I could write
yeah,
anything. Like,
yeah.
yeah, it's good to just be like,
Um,
no, you're writing something with these five instruments, and you just gotta make it work.
yeah, 100%. Um, In terms of when you start your score writing, do you, I guess, well, this is a very subjective question because I guess it depends on what type of piece you're composing, but
Mm.
what do you normally start with when you're, I guess, coming up with an
Yeah,
idea? Because
that's a good question.
but I realize at the same time, it could depend on what type of piece you're composing, whether it's like a chase scene or whether it could be, like a really nice, um, open forest with luscious fluting or something like that.
Well,
I was
funny
trying to
enough,
think of something really
yeah.
contrasting.
I mean, I will say I never ever start on the flute.
No.
Even though of course like that's the instrument I'm most comfortable on, but it's a melody instrument, you need
Yeah.
harmony and yeah, for me I can't really get going
Yeah.
just on that. I'm quite driven by like timbre and sound.
Yeah,
So I usually do start, rather than starting, say, on the piano, I usually do start by at least getting like a vague outline of what I might want the sound world to be. So, like,
yeah,
at the most basic level, like, is it orchestral,
yeah,
or is it a string quartet, or is it some taiko drums and a synth? You know, like, I by no means do I put in all the instruments I'm going to use, but
mhm,
maybe I'll get like three or four like really key parts
yeah,
in there, because usually that's just how my mind works. I can kind of imagine the sound world even before I've really got anything like the harmony, the notes, the
yeah,
structure, anything
definitely.
pinned down.
Yeah,
And of course, it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's a film score, I actually
yeah,
find that easier to get going than things that aren't scored to picture,
yeah,
because then you've got something to bounce off of. It's
yeah,
like instant inspiration. Oh, watch the scene.
yeah.
Well, what does it make me think of?
Yeah, because
And then, of course,
I agree with that because I often find it quite hard to visualize what I'm looking at. I love being able to see what I'm composing for.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah. And it just gives you something to actually like play with. That's why
yeah,
I really enjoy that. It's like you're painting a picture, but there's already half of it there.
yeah,
But yeah, so if I'm doing that, then of course you'll probably have done the spotting beforehand. You'll maybe
yeah,
have a tempo track,
yeah,
and so I would usually then sort of start by trying to work out what at least the structure of the first section
yeah,
might be in terms of time signatures, rhythm, what my vague tempo is and
yeah,
that kind of thing. And usually I find once I've got a bit of a map in there,
yeah,
it'll often change, but
yeah,
it helps me get going. If
yeah.
I've just got like 300 bars of 4/4 at 120 BPM sitting in front of me, it's like this it's not doing it for me. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Um,
And I think that's the thing when you see like a finished a finished score or hear like a finished score in the cinema, you don't see all the the beat mapping and stuff like that. You look at
yeah.
if you look at the I guarantee if you look at those sessions on a on a logic session, it'd be like it would have a 5/8 bar here,
Oh yeah,
just to really
absolutely.
massage those points of getting the big hit points in time with
Yeah,
the picture.
exactly. Yeah, but I
But you
kind of
just
like
don't
to get
hear it
that.
when you see it when you're
Yeah,
there.
or
Yeah.
hopefully if it's good and you don't hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I quite like getting that pinned down quite early, because
Yeah.
I think otherwise I can end up having written something that I really like and then I'm like, but I can't use it. It doesn't fit,
Yeah.
And so yeah, I find if I'm scoring for film, I've got to get like the sort of tempo track and beat
Yeah.
mapping at least partially worked out before I start. Or at
Yeah.
least just at the start. I won't always do like a whole cue if it's really
Yeah.
long, but if I get the first like 15, 20 bars, if I sort of
Yeah.
know what I'm doing, then I can see
So
how it
yeah,
goes.
sometimes I'll write a bit afterwards and just if it doesn't fit, I'll just sacrifice a bit later on in order to fit that bit to
Yeah.
make it sync and then
Yeah, I know,
yeah.
because it's such a pain when you've written something that you really
Yeah, and
like,
then
and
you
then you're
see
like,
everything like shove and you're like, oh no.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
100%.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm not scoring to picture, then I'll often start just with like a sort of a smaller unit, which I wouldn't exactly say, not even just melody or just harmony,
Yeah.
but maybe just half a bar of something that's just been in my head,
Yeah.
and it might be one part, it might be five parts, maybe a little rhythmic thing
Yeah.
with just a few notes or a particular interval that I want to work with.
Yeah.
And then I'll basically develop that out until I get something a bit longer. And just I do quite enjoy doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I had a brief recently from an animator who literally said to me, "Okay, I want something. I want it to be 30 seconds,
Yeah.
and that's your whole brief."
Hmm.
And it was like it didn't. I didn't. He didn't give me a picture. He said, "No, we want you to write first, and then we'll like retroactively fit it." And it was just whatever you like. No keywords, no emotion, no musical references or anything. Um,
I feel that's
yeah,
like sometimes
it
a
was
good
really
thing, but
hard.
also sometimes a bad thing at the same
It
time
was
because
really hard.
yeah,
Yeah, I found it almost impossible. Just having like nothing to start with.
yeah.
But I think the only way was to like almost start with like a little grain of something, and then just like almost just like a little seedling, and just watering it and
Yeah.
just seeing how it
Until it turns
grows.
into a lovely sunflower,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if I get really stuck, then I will go back to maybe more like referring to that sort of music theory of being like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I have this 5 notes of melody,
Yeah.
I can try using this particular interval and then inverting it,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I can try using this in retrograde. I
Yeah.
can try
I
putting it
think
into
that's, yeah, I
half,
love
you know.
doing that. And especially remember at like music A level, we used to look at yeah, the old classics like Beethoven and see how he would invert themes, and
Yeah,
it was just fantastic. And the thing is, you wouldn't hear
yeah.
that when you're listening. Well,
Oh, but
you
when you
would,
start,
but you would, but
yeah.
it wouldn't, you wouldn't be like, oh no, this is a
No, I
tritone
mean, not necessarily
inversion.
when you're listening to it, but if you're like analyzing it, I know
Yeah,
it's brilliant when you dig into a score and then you're suddenly like, oh, you cheeky bastard, you've
yeah,
put that everywhere. That
yeah,
little theme is like, it's there and it's there backwards and it's there in a different key and it's
yeah,
there, at half the speed and
yeah.
it's,
And you just start to listen to it in a different way entirely.
yeah.
Um, I remember we did it with Sweeney Todd as well,
Oh, I love that
as well,
piece.
and it was something like that. Stephen Sondheim had only used one uh triad in its like normal inversion in the whole of Sweeney Todd. Every other chord is
Really?
like an inversion or a chord that's got an added note in it.
Oh,
There's
that's
only like,
amazing. My God, I'm
yeah,
gonna have to like listen to it now. I'm a
yeah,
bit obsessed with that
and
score
then
and I've never known that.
I think it happened, the chord that happens, I think the triad chord, I think it happens in like a really ironic place. I can't remember where, but there were bits that we studied where it'd be a triad with like like a tritone in it or some like cluster, and
Yeah.
it would be saying the words like "I'm fine," and it would be ironic because it's, oh no, that
Yeah.
chord doesn't suggest
You're
that,
listening,
and
being
yeah,
like, I
yeah,
think this Sweeney Todd bloke might be up to no
yeah,
good.
yeah. So yeah, remember we got a warning before listening to that. Too dark. Um, yeah, I remember we got a warning like before we watched the film version of that because so we're
Really?
gonna watch it next week, guys. If you're not a fan of blood, just don't
Yeah,
come
yeah.
next
It's a
week.
little bit gruesome. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of you say you're working on like a animation at the moment. Is there anything else in terms of that people can, look out for that you're working on at the moment? I
There
know there's
are
some might be
things.
some things that are secret, you know.
I don't think I'm allowed to say
Don't worry,
anything.
no, that's fine.
Um, I'm trying to think. No, I don't think there's anything that I'm allowed at this moment in time
Nah, that's
to
fine. Don't
announce.
worry.
But if you follow me, then you'll see it.
Oh yeah,
I
don't
won't
worry.
say
That's
anything.
absolutely fine.
And I'm really hoping to find some time this summer to actually do some of my own projects as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so
Is
fingers
that something
crossed.
you'd like to talk about, or is that more like a secret thing?
Well, I mean, yeah, nothing. It's nothing specific really. Just it just can be thin on the ground to find time to compose the stuff that you want to
Yeah,
write,
exactly.
for
Yeah.
yourself. And yeah, there's a few
Doing
things
things
I'd
for
like to do.
you is all. Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so easy for that. That's always the last priority, isn't it? Because it's
Yeah,
like, oh, well, no one's waiting on that with the deadline.
yeah,
But
100%.
yeah, no, I'd really like to find some time to like work on my own music just for
Yeah,
fun, for my own enjoyment. So
and
yeah,
yeah,
hopefully this summer.
would that be in a style that you've not particularly worked with before, or do you think you'd do
You know,
something a
I'm
bit,
thinking of
or I
continuing
guess you could do
a
something that you,
series that
yeah,
um, I started during the lockdown. Well, actually, I started doing this particular project literally when I was like teaching myself to compose, which was during the first COVID lockdown. Um, and I was just taking this book called Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, which is like an anthology. It's literally like a kids book, an anthology of different stories of like real women's lives and
hmm,
women who have had an impact on the world in some way and done incredible things, done some sinister things, all different sorts of people. But I would just like open it at random each day and be like, oh, okay, so today I write a piece about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Or like, oh, all right, today I'm going to write about Maya Angelou. And I just gave myself
that's a
24 hours
good idea.
and would just write a short piece. And honestly, that was like, I think for me, that was the like best way I could have like taught myself, because I sort of forced myself each day to do a different style.
Yeah,
Something that I felt like
yeah,
resonated with that particular person. And it again, it's like that sort of thing of not putting too much pressure on it. It was like, well, I'm only going to write this in one day, and I've still got to live my life and do other stuff. So it's
Yeah.
not going to be perfect. It's going to be rough around the edges, and it's only going to be 60 seconds long, but that's just represents my work on this day.
That's it's a
Um,
fantastic idea. That
so
that's
I'd love to pick that back up, as it's been about 2.5, maybe even 3 years.
you could make that into a little series as well or something potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
There
Because
you
I've written
go.
about 30, 40 of these pieces.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got loads. I've only released like a couple of them because, of course, you look back on your work and you're always like, oh well, I could really improve the mix on that.
Yeah.
I could actually, and so there's so much actually on the tech side of things that I've learned since then, let alone on the composing side, that I now look back and I'm like, oh, it's clipping. Oh, I don't think I can put that out there into the
Yeah.
world without doing some more work on it. But yeah, which is not really like in the spirit of the
I
project.
think that was the thing
So
with mine with the levels. I'd find pieces of when I'd done them when I
yeah,
was sort of year 12, year 13,
yes,
and there'd be one piece dead quiet. I thought, oh, just crank up the volume, go on to the next one, and it would get absolutely blasted out. I didn't.
yeah. I mean, it's absolutely fair to say that I was not gain staging at
No,
that
no,
point in my life, and
no.
that I still have to very much force myself to do it. It's like
Yeah,
definitely the mixing side of things is like my least favorite part
yeah.
of the
I think it's
compositional
yeah,
process.
it's always seems to be one particular sample library that likes to peak. I think it's like the Darwin percussion with the Spitfire audio that's like
Oh, yeah, because it's
super
huge,
loud.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
I know. And
always
it's so tempting because it's like these massive resonant sounds you like really want them to
yeah.
bring out. But yeah, I know. Self-control is like very crucial, and
Yeah,
I've been there. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, I'm hoping to pick up something like that. Watch this space, and I'll watch it too, and we'll find
yeah,
out.
yeah. And it's just I guess really nice to just chat like this as well. I think I started off the Quick 10 almost, I think it was just over a year ago now, and you were the
Brilliant.
first, yeah, the first guest that I had on there, and
Oh, well, I'm
so
very touched to have
yeah,
been invited back.
yeah,
It's
so
great to see everything you're doing. It's brilliant.
yeah. Hi everyone, thank you very much for watching this month's episode of Musicians Corner. If you did enjoy this one, be sure to subscribe so you see more videos like this in the future. Thanks for all the support, and hopefully see you in the next video as well.